As a skilled mechanic and committed Marine, John stood out for volunteering to serve in Indochina. In March 1967, he discussed his plans with his wife, Sandra. Married for 3 years, they had a small house and were planning to start a family. Sandra worked as a paralegal, and with her income and his, they managed well financially, with good savings for emergencies. Sandra cried but understood John's strong sense of duty. John was strong and muscular, known as a tough fighter. Marrying his high school sweetheart had calmed him down, though he could still fight if necessary. They said their goodbyes and spent a passionate night together before he left. "You'd better come back in one piece," she said, "and don't go after other women. This is mine, only mine," she added, grabbing his crotch. "Don't worry, sweetie," he said. "I'll take good care of myself, and you'd better behave while I'm away. I know how those wealthy lawyers are." "No problem, sweetie," she replied. "I promise to be good." Before leaving, John updated his will and set up automatic payments from his military salary to cover the mortgage and utilities. He treated himself to a tattoo reading, Death Before Dishonor. In Vietnam, John was a fire team leader. Initially met with skepticism as a reservist, he earned respect after several combat engagements. Unlike many Marines, he avoided local women, staying faithful to his wife Sandra, despite teasing from Lance Corporal Harker. Harker warned him about Jody, slang for men who had military wives whose husbands were deployed, but John trusted Sandra completely. John wrote to Sandra as often as possible and cherished her letters. Initially, he received letters every 2 weeks, but after a few months, they became less frequent. He found it odd, especially as he started receiving more letters from his parents, and even photos of Sandra in a swimsuit he hadn't seen before, wondering who had taken them. That Christmas, he received a card and letter from his parents, but nothing from Sandra. Concerned, but undistracted, he stayed vigilant in Vietnam. In mid-January 1968, stationed near Da Nang, rumors spread of an impending major attack by the enemy, Charlie, around the Tet Lunar New Year. At the end of the month, chaos erupted. John's position was heavily attacked, and they fought fiercely. Most of John's team, including Harker, passed. John was injured. John and other Marines were evacuated to Da Nang, then to a military hospital in San Francisco. Doctors saved his leg, though he faced a long recovery. The bullet missed major organs, and stitches fixed his cheek. His ear was bandaged, and nurses said the scar gave him a distinguished look, though he wasn't so sure. John's time in Vietnam was over. A Marine officer awarded him a Purple Heart and informed him he was being recommended for a Silver Star. John already had a Bronze Star with a Combat V and a Navy Commendation Medal. John's parents met him in San Francisco. He wondered where Sandra was and if she knew he was back in the States. His father, a veteran, chuckled. "Damn, son, I thought I taught you how to duck." His mother hugged him tightly and cried. "Where's Sandra?" John asked. His parents exchanged glances before responding. "I honestly don't know, John," his father finally said. "We tried calling the house and her office, but they kept saying she was out, and she never called back. I haven't seen her in weeks. I went by every weekend to maintain the yard and check on her, but nothing." "Tell him, Bob," John's mother said. "Tell me what, Mom?" John asked. "What's going on?" "John, the last time I saw Sandra was maybe 2.5 months ago. I was coming up the street to your house and saw a guy leaving. He got into a sports car, I think it was a Corvette, and drove off quickly. I saw Sandra at the door in a bathrobe waving goodbye to him," he said. "She didn't say anything when I arrived. I haven't seen her since then. I've been picking up the papers and collecting your mail when I go by. I'm sorry, son." John was heartbroken. He had believed she would stay loyal to him. Then he remembered what Harker said about Jody. Maybe he was right. Now he understood why he hadn't heard from her. "Was it a blue Corvette?" John asked. Bob nodded. "Yes, it was," he said. "Why? Do you know who owns it?" "Yeah," John replied. "It belongs to Eric Swagman, a junior partner at her firm. So she isn't even home long enough to pick up the mail?" "It doesn't seem like it," Bob said. "I hope you don't mind, but I saw a couple of utility and phone bills marked final notice, so I took care of them. I figured you wouldn't want to come home to a house without power or phone service." "Thanks, Dad," John said. "I'll pay you back when I get home, I promise." "Don't worry about it, son," Bob said. "Just focus on getting better. Don't stress about this until you're ready. If you want, I can look into getting a power of attorney. If she's not handling the bills, who knows what else she might have done? For all we know, she might have already cleaned you out." John asked a nurse for help in finding a military lawyer. Soon, a Navy lieutenant commander arrived and took notes as John and his parents explained the situation. He took out some papers from his briefcase. "I'll get these papers prepared for you, Corporal," he said. They will give your parents special powers of attorney to handle the issues you mentioned. I suggest you see a family law attorney in your home state as soon as possible. I'll have the paperwork ready, and we can meet here this afternoon to sign and notarize it. Thank you, sir, John said. After the lawyer left, Bob turned to his son. As soon as we get home, John, I'll check the bank to see what's going on. I still have the house key you gave me, so I'll stop by and check on things there. You know, George Williams, who retired from the police force a couple of months ago, is now working as a private investigator. I can ask him to look into this if you want, Bob offered. I'm not sure I can afford a private investigator, Dad, John said. Bob shook his head. Don't worry about it, son, he said. George owes me a few favors. We worked together for 13 years on the force. Also, I'll talk to our family lawyer. I think he still handles family law cases. By the way, Bob continued, Mr. Wilkins said, your job at the shop is still available. He's been saving a quarter of your pay since you left as a return bonus. He said he wasn't going to let the best mechanic in the state slip away. But don't tell him I told you. John was grateful. Wilkins was a generous man, but didn't often show it. He was fair and honest with customers, but had a tough exterior that could be off-putting. That sounds good, Dad, John said, a tear rolling down his cheek. Damn that woman, he thought. His parents gave him a comforting hug. It'll be all right, son, his mother said. We'll get through this. A few hours later, the attorney returned with a notary. After signing the papers, John's parents left, promising to call with any news. They thanked the nurse, who assured them John was well cared for and would need extensive physical therapy arranged through the VA. John was finally alone to confront his life's mess. He rested but dreamt about his fallen Marines, not Sandra. A few days later, John got a call from his father. Bad news, John, Bob said. Sandra drained almost all of your checking and savings accounts. About 2 months ago, she took out $8,545 from your savings. I have the bank statement. She took the money out in cash. The only deposits in those 2 months were from your military pay. According to the bank and the teller, Sandra comes in a few days after each payday and withdraws everything except $5, just enough to keep the account active. She didn't open a new account, so I have no idea what she did with the money. All right, Dad, John said. Since you have power of attorney, take her name off the account. We don't have any credit cards, so that's not an issue. Will do, Bob said. I also went by the house. It's a mess. There's moldy food on the table, dishes piled up in the sink, and it smells terrible. It looks like she took all her clothes and personal stuff but left her wedding dress and album behind. I found her wedding and engagement rings in the bathroom trash. I'm sorry. At least the house is still standing, John said. Yeah, Bob replied. Your mother is there now, cleaning up and airing out the place. The bed is a mess. The sheets are badly stained. If I had to guess, Sandra probably had someone else in there. What do you want to do about it? Get rid of it, John said. Dispose of it and pile it up outside if you need to. I'll manage with a cot if I have to. All right, Bob said. I'll handle it. George offered to take your case for free. He said nothing is worse than someone who steals a soldier's wife while he's serving his country. I also found a top-notch lawyer who's agreed to handle your divorce for free. He can't stand Swagman, who apparently has a reputation for going after married women. George suggested we change all the locks on your house, and I agree. Are you okay with that? He asked. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, Dad, John said. All right, we'll keep in touch. How are you holding up? Bob asked. I'm doing all right, Dad, really, John said. Who are you trying to convince, me or yourself? Bob asked. John smiled. His father always had a sharp insight. Dad, you've lost men in combat, right? John asked. He knew this was a silly question, given his father's service as a second lieutenant with the 1st Marine Regiment under Colonel Lewis B. Chesty Puller at the Chosin Reservoir in 1950. His father knew all about combat, sacrifice, and death. Yes, son, I have, Bob said. This might sound odd, Dad, but have you ever had dreams where they spoke to you? John asked. Oh, yes. At first, it was almost every night, but it became less frequent over time, Bob said. Have you ever gotten over it? John asked. You never completely get over it, John. It becomes a part of you. You have to make peace with it and learn to live with it, or it will consume you, Bob said. The next 2 weeks flew by for John. He heard from his parents daily with updates on Sandra, but never from her. She had moved in with Eric Swagman and was pregnant by him. Everyone at the office knew about their relationship. The divorce process was going smoothly. John's lawyer, Mike McGregor, was filing for divorce based on adultery and abandonment. He was also suing Eric for interfering with John's marriage and taking legal action against Sandra's employer for not upholding their moral standards. Mike mentioned possible additional charges against Swagman based on evidence from George. Bob mentioned that Sandra had a meltdown when she found out she was no longer listed on John's military pay account and couldn't access his money. She also discovered her house keys no longer worked. Bob and his wife told her to go to her boyfriend for help. John focused on his recovery, finding some amusement in Sandra's situation. His physical wounds were healing, but he struggled emotionally, grieving for his fallen Marines and hurt by his soon-to-be ex-wife's actions. John learned to move around using a crutch and cane, and the doctors agreed it was time to remove his cast. He was cleared to drive an automatic. Back in his room, John saw an orderly hanging up his cleaned uniforms, now with sergeant's stripes. A doctor explained he had been promoted and was being discharged, with physical therapy arranged at a VA facility near his home. John put on his freshly starched green uniform, grabbed his polished boots, and used a wheelchair and cane to go to the day room. In the day room, John was surprised to see his parents, doctors, nurses, orderlies, and Lieutenant Colonel Arvin Johnson, his reserve battalion commander. John stood up with the help of his cane, surprising everyone, and shook Lieutenant Colonel Johnson's hand. The colonel announced John's promotion to sergeant, expressing pride in John's loyalty and abilities, and joked, "And may God have mercy on your soul," causing laughter. John's parents pinned the new stripes on his uniform, thrilled at the honor. Lieutenant Colonel Johnson then read a citation awarding John the Silver Star Medal for his bravery in Vietnam. On January 30th, 1968, as a fire team leader near Da Nang, John led his team against overwhelming enemy forces, continuing to fight despite being wounded. His leadership and courage significantly contributed to the defense of Da Nang, upholding the highest standards of the Marine Corps and the Navy. Lieutenant Colonel Johnson pinned the medal on John's chest, thanked him for his service, and noted that his experience would be valuable for training troops. John's mother hugged him with tears in her eyes, while Bob wiped a tear and expressed pride. After packing his sea bag, John changed into a Class C uniform, short-sleeve khaki shirt and green trousers. He took a wheelchair ride to the lobby where his parents waited for a cab to the airport. At the airport, he got another wheelchair ride and gave the finger to some long-haired protesters who called him a baby ender. A few hours later, his parents wheeled him into his house. It no longer felt like a home since Sandra cheated on him, but he appreciated the privacy. His parents had stocked the fridge with beer and snacks, and his mother prepared his favorite dishes, including her famous lasagna. He changed into jeans and a t-shirt and put his gear away. At the bottom of his sea bag, he found a large Bowie-style knife he had found in Vietnam. The blade was rusty but clean and oiled, with a leather scabbard stamped with a winged creature holding a sword and the words "Marche au crève." He valued it and promised to find out its origins. He called his lawyer, Mike McGregor, and George to set up a meeting that afternoon. After a short rest, he checked on his pickup truck in the garage. It seemed in working condition, though he planned to do an oil change and tune-up soon. After inspecting his place, he grabbed a beer and sank into his recliner. His leg hurt, so he relaxed and turned on the TV, eventually settling on a game show for background noise. He called Wilkins to let him know he was finally back. "It's about damn time you got back," Wilkins said gruffly. "When do you think you can start working?" John explained the situation with Sandra and what the doctor said about his physical therapy. "No problem, son. Take the time you need to handle your stuff," Wilkins replied. "If you need to go to court or see the doctor, that's fine. I'm just glad you're home. Most of these kids don't even know the difference between a brake pad and a carburetor sometimes. If you can make it over here sometime this week, I've got a little welcome home gift for you." "I'll do that, thanks," John said, and ended the call. At last, Mike and George arrived, so John let them in, shook their hands, and offered them a beer. They accepted the offer and settled into the living room. "It's good to see you back, John," George said. "Your dad told me about your medal. Congrats, you earned it. Anyway, let's get to it. I've got something you need to hear." He pulled out a small reel-to-reel tape recorder with a tape already loaded. "Let me set this up for you," he said. "I've been keeping track of Sandra and Eric from the start. I followed them one night to a steakhouse on the edge of town and managed to sit right across from them. I'm not sure if they saw me, but they didn't notice the microphone hidden in the plants between our booths. There will be some background noise from waitresses and such, but you can clearly hear their conversation." He started the tape and turned up the volume. "So, Sandra, have you thought about my proposal?" said a male voice John recognized as Eric's. He could almost see the smug grin on his face. "I'm not sure I can do that to John, Eric. It's bad enough that I cheated on him and now I'm carrying your baby, but I don't think I can go through with this," Sandra replied. "Come on, babe. If anyone can do it, it's you. He's probably drowning his sorrows right now." "I bet he'd do anything to have you back," Eric said. "You don't know John very well, Eric. His sense of ethics wouldn't let him accept this. There's no way he'll agree to raise the baby as his, and he definitely won't share me with you, Sandra said. No, he wouldn't share you. We won't let him. Look, you know I'm not cut out to be a father. John would be a better parent than me. Here's the plan. We get him to agree to our terms, or we threaten him with a divorce. We'll demand his house, half his income, alimony, and child support. Don't worry, I've already prepared the paperwork, Eric said. George stopped the tape. So, they really think I'm going to let her stay with him and let him raise her illegitimate child? John asked. Are they out of their minds? There's more, George said, starting the tape again. I don't know, Eric. John won't go for that, Sandra said. Come on, babe. You know he's so in love with you, he'd do anything, Eric said. You're not still in love with him, are you? Well, I still like him, she said. But I don't love him like I used to. Besides, you're much better in bed. John's face turned red with anger. This is what I get for loving that cheating woman, he thought. And I wouldn't leave you to go to Vietnam. What kind of fool does that? Eric said. John felt like punching the wall. You're right, she said. When he gets back, I'll talk to him. Okay? Do that, Eric said. Do you know when he's coming back? No. I haven't heard from him since January, and I haven't sent him anything since last year like you told me, she said. If he really wants to fight this, we have other options, Eric said. Like what? Sandra asked. Well, you know how sometimes houses can catch fire out of nowhere? Or how brakes can suddenly fail? Eric said. You're not going to hurt him, are you? Sandra asked. I won't be part of that. Don't worry, Eric said. I know people who could help with that. You'd be in the clear. If something happens to him, you'd get everything and be free of him. Well, I guess, Sandra said, but only as a last resort. Right. Only if we have no other choice. Let's see what happens when he gets back. George stopped the tape. That sounds like a plan to commit murder to me, John said. Both George and Mike agreed. It's also a conspiracy to commit fraud, and possibly theft since Sandra drained your bank accounts, Mike said. That's why I filed the court papers on the way over and pushed for a quick hearing. I also got an order of protection that keeps them at least 100 feet away from you, your house, and your parents. I know the person who schedules these things, so I'll be serving them with papers tomorrow morning. I spoke with the district attorney, and he's putting together a criminal case against them. I also talked to Lee Marcus, the senior partner at their firm. We've been friends for a long time, and he's furious about what they're doing. I told him we plan to sue the firm and mention the conspiracy to engage in criminal activity. By the time we're done, swagmen will be lucky to avoid jail, Mike said. Your dad and I still have connections in the police department, including the chief, George said. I spoke with a few of them, and they've agreed to keep an eye out for you. Any questions so far? George asked. Yeah, John said. What am I asking for in the divorce exactly? Mike handed him a folder with all the documents. Sorry, I forgot your dad was acting on your behalf, Mike said. Here's the paperwork. As I mentioned, we're filing for divorce based on adultery and abandonment. Since Sandra has a higher income, there won't be any alimony. You'll keep the house and everything in it because she left it and didn't pay any of the utilities. We're also demanding that she return $7,100, which is half of your joint accounts. Remember, she emptied both your checking and savings accounts and took all the money you had deposited. We're also asking that she return her rings and change back to her maiden name. She'll keep her clothes and her car. I've asked Lee to keep her employed, since she'll need some support during her pregnancy. From what we know, Swagman has just under $1 million, so we're suing him for $800,000. With that, his court costs and attorney fees for both this case and any criminal charges, he'll be nearly bankrupt. We're also asking the firm to pay $2 million for not enforcing their morals clause, Mike said. The firm will probably settle for around half that amount to avoid bad publicity. One last thing, John, Mike added. Do you have a set of dress blues? Yeah, John replied. Mike nodded. Great, Mike said. Get them cleaned and have all your medals and ribbons mounted. Wear them to court when the trial starts. I want everyone to see what kind of man Sandra and Eric have wronged. I have one more surprise for them, but I'll keep that to myself for now. That's fine with me, John said. I'll get the uniform ready. Just let me know when I need to be there. I will. Now, if you don't mind, I have a meatloaf and an apple pie waiting at home. John, take some time to relax, Mike said. I will, John said. I was thinking about going to the watering hole for another beer and catching up with some old friends. Just be careful, John, George warned. That neighborhood has gotten a bit rough since you were last here. Not rougher than Da Nang, I bet, John said. George and Mike laughed. Not quite, George said, but almost. After George and Mike left, John went to his bedroom, changed his shirt, and grabbed the knife, hoping to find a friend who was good with them. He locked up the house, hobbled to the garage, and started his truck. Man, that feels great, he thought, as the pickup roared to life. He drove off and headed to one of his old hangouts, stopping for gas on the way. He parked in front of the bar like he always did and took a look around. George was right. The place seemed a bit rougher than it did a year ago, but he thought, I've seen much worse. He went inside and made his way to the bar through the haze of cigarette smoke. He grabbed a beer and scanned the room, hoping to recognize someone, but no luck. This used to be a spot where regular guys like him would hang out and chat over a drink, but now it seemed like a hangout for gang members. He finished his beer and headed to his truck, hearing a woman cry for help in an alley. He saw a young woman surrounded by 5 or 6 men. Grabbing a knife from his truck, John quietly approached. One man was tearing the woman's dress. "Hey, leave the woman alone!" John shouted. The men paused, puzzled. One man with a switchblade moved toward John. John drew his own knife. "You want to play with knives?" John asked. The thug lunged, but John dodged, slashed his wrist, and kneed him in the groin. The rest of the gang began to retreat. 2 men stayed to confront John. He took one down with a punch to the throat and slashed the other from shoulder to waist. A man with a piece of wood snuck up behind John, hitting him in the face. The attacker fled as police arrived. An officer approached John. "Man, Harkness, didn't George warn you this area is dangerous?" "Yeah," John replied. "I guess I'm just too stubborn to listen." The officer surveyed the scene and instructed his partner to call for a couple of ambulances. He then grabbed 2 sets of handcuffs, went to the men on the ground, and restrained their hands behind their backs. Returning to John, the officer noticed the knife lying next to him. "Now that's a knife," he said. "Where did you get that, John?" "Picked it up in Vietnam," John answered. "Let me see it," the officer said. "Do you have a place to keep this thing?" John handed over the leather scabbard. The officer examined it closely. "French Foreign Legion? Really?" he asked. "Marine Corps," John said. "Just got back." "I know you were in the Marines, John. I'm talking about the markings on the scabbard. The emblem shows it's from the French Foreign Legion. The words under it mean march or die. This doesn't look like standard issue. I bet it belonged to a French soldier at some point." The officer put the knife back in its scabbard and handed it back to John. "You should put that somewhere safe before a tough cop takes it from you. Maybe frame it or something," he advised. John nodded. "Yeah, I'll do that," he said. The woman approached the officer. "Please don't arrest him, officer," she said. "He saved my life. These men were going to do something terrible to me." The officer looked at her torn dress. "It's all right, ma'am. He can go, but he needs to see a doctor, and we'll need a statement from you," he said. "I'll take him to the emergency room in my car, officer, and I'll give you my statement at the hospital. Is that okay?" she asked. The officer thought for a moment and then agreed. "All right, miss," he said. "You can follow me to the hospital." He shouted to his partner, who quickly came over. The second officer looked at the 3 men in handcuffs and whistled. "Wow," he said. "Isn't that Juan Mendoza, the gang leader we've been hearing about?" He was referring to the smaller man who attacked John first. The first officer nodded. "Yes, it is," he said. "And this guy took all 3 of them down?" the second officer asked. The first officer nodded again. "Looks like it," he said. "Unbelievable," the second officer said. By then, 2 ambulances had arrived, and paramedics were putting the gang members into them. The first officer helped John stand up. "So you didn't get enough of this in Vietnam?" he asked with a smile. John chuckled, even though it was painful. "Guess not," he said. "All I wanted was a beer with some friends." "Well, this lady will take you to the ER. Hand me your keys. My partner will drive your truck home, and I'll pick him up after I'm done at the hospital," he said. He pointed at John. "And stay away from this place. It's gotten rough. Drugs, gangs, you name it. All the guys are hanging out at the Rockwood on the other side of town these days." "Thanks, officer. I'll keep that in mind," John said. He followed the young woman, who introduced herself as Amelia Simmons, to her car, a small Dodge Dart. "Aren't you the guy who got a Silver Star in Vietnam?" she asked on the way to the hospital. "Yes," he said. "How do you know about that?" "Who doesn't? It was all over the news today," she said. "Why are you out here? Shouldn't you be home with your wife or something?" John couldn't hold back his tears and started quietly crying. He felt worse knowing that strangers seemed to care more about him than his so-called loving wife. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to upset you. What happened?" John briefly explained the end of his marriage, and Amelia began to tear up. She parked in the emergency room lot, found a spot, and hugged him tightly. not caring about getting his blood on her dress. John felt quite embarrassed by her gesture. "You poor man," she said, tears streaming down her face. "That awful woman doesn't deserve you." John looked at her, puzzled. "Why are you crying?" he asked. "Those men were going to end me. But you jumped in to help, even though you could have been killed yourself. You didn't even know me, but you risked your life for me," she said, crying. "I can never repay you for that." John hugged her back. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "Yes, I do," she insisted. "I owe you everything. You put aside your own pain to help me, so I'm going to help you heal. No matter how long it takes, I'll mend your broken heart," she promised. "I swear no one will ever hurt you again. Not like her," she said. "You don't even know me," he said. "You didn't know me either," she replied. "But after tonight, I know all I need to know. John Harkness, you're my hero, my knight in shining armor. I want to care for you, hold you, and fill the emptiness in your heart. Please, let me do that for you." John thought about what she said. When he looked into her eyes, he saw only genuine love, no deceit. There was something beautiful about her that he couldn't quite describe. Maybe it was because of everything with Sandra. In his mind, he heard Harker's voice. "Go for it, Corporal. Sorry, Sergeant." He smiled, knowing Amelia had no idea why. "All right," John said, giving her a gentle kiss. Amelia hugged him tightly. "You won't regret this, John, I promise," she said. They went into the hospital emergency room, where the officer waited while the doctor checked out both John and Amelia. The doctor cleaned the cut on John's cheek while x-rays were processed. After looking at the x-rays, he told John that nothing was broken and that the nail in the board had only scratched his skin. Amelia was also fine. John gave his account of what happened that night, and the officer seemed to accept it. "John," the officer said, "Amelia seems like a decent person, but she's had a tough time. Her parents died in a car accident a few years ago, and she's been struggling ever since. She has no family and barely gets by as a waitress. I know you have your own issues and don't need more problems, but it would be great if you could help her out. Maybe you two could support each other." "Thanks," John said. "Maybe you're right." He was surprised by what the officer shared. Amelia had never mentioned any of her difficulties, yet here she was comforting him. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe it was love. Whatever it was, it felt a lot better than what Sandra had given him. The officer handed him a card. "Call me if you need anything," he said before walking over to Amelia. "You can follow me to John's place. I need to pick up my partner anyway," he added. She thanked him and they left the emergency room. They drove to John's house in silence. John had a lot on his mind. His soon-to-be ex-wife had betrayed him, his Marine friends were gone, and now there was Amelia. John didn't believe in coincidences, but he couldn't help but wonder. They were both hurting, yet they chose to set their own pain aside to support each other. When they arrived at John's house, he invited her inside after the officers left. "Come on in, Amelia. I don't bite, and it's much more comfortable inside than in your car," he said. "I don't want to be a burden," she replied. John grabbed one of her bags from the car. "Don't worry about it," he said. "It's no trouble. I have an extra room, and it's definitely safer than sleeping in your car." "Okay," she said. "I suppose you're right." After settling Amelia's things in the guest room, John invited her to the living room and offered her a cup of coffee. She accepted and made herself comfortable on the couch while he prepared their drinks. They shared their stories, with John explaining everything about his marriage and his service in Vietnam. Amelia did the same, sharing her own life story. She told John that her parents worked hard but struggled to make ends meet. They lived in an apartment when they died in a car accident, leaving her with nothing but the need to sell off everything she owned. There was no inheritance, and the little money she had went to covering her parents' final costs. She lost her job as a secretary when her boss moved away and ended up waiting tables at a small diner close to the alley where she was attacked. The pay was low, but she managed to get an apartment with a friend. Her friend, however, got a job in another state and left. Amelia couldn't afford the apartment on her own, so she moved in with a guy she had dated a few times. Unfortunately, he wanted more than she was ready to give and started being abusive. After a few weeks, she left and ended up back in her car, trying to save enough money to rent a room somewhere. "Why don't you stay here?" John suggested. "I don't want to take advantage of you," she replied. "I can't pay you anything, and it wouldn't look good with your divorce situation." "That's okay," John said. "You can use the spare bedroom and maybe help me with some housework. If anyone asks about my divorce, I'll just say you were homeless and I let you stay in exchange for helping around the house." "That sounds fair," Amelia agreed. I hope you don't get tired of me. John laughed. No worries. I just hope you can handle looking at my face, he said, pointing to his cheek. She gently touched his scar and his left ear. I can manage, she said. Actually, I think it makes you look distinguished, like someone who doesn't put up with nonsense. He laughed again. Flattery will get you far, he said. Anyway, things might get a bit busy here for a day or two. Sandra and her boyfriend will be served papers tomorrow morning, so I expect a lot of phone calls after 9. I also have some errands to run. Want to come with me? Sure, she said. That sounds like fun. I'm off for the next couple of days anyway. Well, I'm exhausted and my leg is starting to hurt, so I'm heading to bed, John said. I'll come with you if that's okay, she said, following him down the hall. Would it be all right if I slept with you tonight? No closeness. I just need someone to hold me. Sure, he said. I promise I'll be good. She smiled and went to the bathroom to shower and change while John got ready for bed. By the time she returned, wearing just a long t-shirt, John was already under the covers. She climbed in beside him, and he instinctively put his arm around her. She rested her head on his shoulder with her arm draped over his chest. He thought to himself how nice it felt. They fell asleep and woke up the next morning with John spooning Amelia. I'm sorry, he said. Amelia smiled at him. Don't apologize, she said. I put your hand there last night because it felt good. And this felt good too, she added, lightly brushing her hand against his groin. I'm glad you like it, John said. They showered and got ready for the day. Amelia made breakfast while John got dressed. At 9:20 a.m., the phone rang. What's all this about a divorce, John? Sandra yelled. I don't want a divorce. And what's this about adultery and abandonment? I don't care what you want right now, Sandra, John said. You left the house, refused to pay the bills, took thousands from our accounts, slept with Eric Swagman, moved in with him, and now you're pregnant, either by him or someone else. Is that clear enough for you? I didn't know you were back, John, or I would have visited you, she said. That's a load of crap, John snapped. It was all over the news. Even people who don't know me have welcomed me home. But you? You're too busy with your boyfriend to care about your husband, he said. You don't get it, John. I still love you, she said, crying. No, you don't, John said angrily. I haven't heard from you since last year. I learned about everything from my parents when they visited me in the hospital after I got hurt. You didn't even send a card. How can you claim you love me while you're sleeping with that loser? But I do love you, John, she insisted. No, you don't, John said. What did you tell that guy when you talked about me raising your child? Oh, right. I don't love him anymore. That's fine with me because right now I hate you so much I wouldn't help you if you were on fire. John, how do you know what I said? She asked through her tears. He had never talked to her like this before. And you don't really mean that, do you? Just sign the divorce papers and let's be done with it. We're over, John said. And I'm going to take down your boyfriend, too. Suddenly, Eric came on the line. Listen up, you jerk. I'm going to destroy you, Eric said. I don't think so, idiot. Tougher guys than you have tried, and they're dead now. You want to mess with me? I'll beat you so badly you'll be begging for mercy. You'll feel like you've been hit by a freight train. Check those papers. There's a restraining order against both you and Sandra. I know you two plan to burn down my house and mess up my truck. If you come near me, you'll get a bullet up your rear end. By the time I'm done with you, you'll be lucky if you don't end up in jail, John said. We'll see about that, Eric replied. Sandra came back on the phone. John, please, let's talk this over. We don't need a divorce. Eric and I have a proposal we'd like to discuss with you, she said. If you want to talk to my lawyer, John said. Here's a suggestion for both of you. Go away and stay out of my life. He hung up and hit the wall with his fist. Damn her, he yelled. Amelia came over and hugged him. It's okay, John. She deserved that, and so did he. Let your lawyer deal with it. That's what you're paying him for. Just calm down, okay? She said. How can she still claim to love me after everything she's done? John wondered. I don't know, John, she replied. She clearly isn't thinking straight. You mentioned you have errands to run. Let's take care of them and get out of here for a bit, okay? All right. You're right, he said. What do we need to do today? She asked. I need to visit my civilian boss, drop off my dress blues for cleaning and have the metals mounted, then get some parts and tune up the truck, he said. Let's get started then, she said. We've got a lot to do. First, I need to call my lawyer, he said. Amelia agreed, and John made the call. He updated Mike about his call with Sandra. Yeah, I thought she was going to faint, Mike said. And Swagman looked like he was about to hit something. I'm curious to see what they propose. By the way, I spoke with Lee. He's meeting with the senior partners and the board this afternoon. And make sure your dress blues are ready. We go to court next Friday. Got it. Thanks, Mike, John said. I'm dropping them off today. I'll call if I hear anything else. They left the house, took John's uniform and medals to the cleaner, who was an old WBOQ vet and knew his stuff. Then they went to visit old man Wilkins. Hey, boss, John said as he and Amelia entered. Wilkins looked up from his desk, buried in paperwork. Hey there, Wilkins replied. Damn, I need a secretary. I can't keep up with all this paperwork. I've got cars to fix. John glanced at Amelia. Seriously? You really want to hire a secretary? He asked. Absolutely, Wilkins said. Look at this mess. Plus, I have to answer phones and handle customers at the counter. I know someone who used to be a secretary and might be looking for a better job. Interested? John suggested. Hell yes, Wilkins replied. John gently took Amelia's arm. Let me introduce you to my new friend, boss. This is Amelia Simmons, and she used to be a secretary, he said. Wilkins looked at Amelia. Think you can handle all this, young lady? He asked. Amelia nodded confidently. Absolutely, she said. I can type 50 words per minute, file, take shorthand, and handle customers. I can even work the cash register out there. Wilkins thought for a moment, then asked, Are you working right now? Yes, I'm a waitress, but I don't make much, she said. Here's what I'll do, Wilkins said. Give your current boss a 2-week notice and then come work for me. Since you're John's friend, I'll start you at $125 a week. How does that sound? Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Wilkins, she said with a smile. Do you know anything about cars? He asked. Not as much as you, but my dad taught me quite a bit, she answered. That's even better, Wilkins said. Oh, John, I've got something for you. He handed John an envelope. Consider it a welcome home bonus. John opened the envelope and found a check for $2,340. He shook Wilkins's hand in appreciation. Thanks, boss. This really means a lot, John said. Well, you've earned it, Wilkins replied. Take care of that cheating wife and then come back to work, all right? Will do, boss, John said. Wilkins waved them off. All right, you two, get going, Wilkins said. They shook hands with the old man and left. Wow, $125 a week, Amelia said. I've never made that much. Thanks again, John. Don't mention it, John said. That's almost double what I make as a sergeant in the Corps. No way, Amelia said. Yep, John said. You really know about cars? Yeah, Amelia replied. We didn't have much money, so Dad taught me how to fix things. I learned to tune up a car, change belts and tires, and even do oil changes. Don't let Wilkins hear that. He'll have you working on cars all the time, John joked. Amelia laughed. I don't mind getting a bit of grease on my hands. Just get what you need for the truck and I'll show you how, she said. John smiled. Wow, I think I'm falling for you, John said. Amelia giggled and kissed him on the cheek. Me too, she said. They stopped at John's bank where he deposited the check, putting 10% into savings as usual. He took out $100 for spending and ordered new checks without Sandra's name on them. Then they went to an auto parts store and bought everything John needed for the truck. After grabbing a hamburger, they headed home. John thought about how the place felt like a home again with Amelia around. He pulled the truck into the garage and got everything ready while Amelia went inside to change. She came back out wearing old, worn jeans and a t-shirt. So, what should we do? John asked. Amelia grabbed the spark plugs and wires. I'll take care of the plugs and wires and you handle the oil change, she said. Sounds good, John replied. Do you know how to set the gap on the plugs? Are you serious? She asked. Without waiting for a response, she took the tools she needed and got to work. John was amazed at how skillfully she used his tools. He gathered what he needed and began changing the oil. By the time he finished, she had also replaced the spark plugs, wires, rotor, and distributor cap. He inspected her work and was very impressed. Everything looked flawless, but appearances can be misleading, so he lowered the truck and started the engine. He turned the key, and the truck roared to life just as he hoped. He revved the engine slightly and listened for any problems. Pleased with the results, he turned off the truck and looked at Amelia, who now had grease smeared across her hands and face. At that moment, she looked more beautiful to him than Sandra ever had. So, she asked. John took her face in his greasy hands and kissed her deeply. I'm definitely in love, he said. You're hired. She smiled, unconcerned about the extra grease on her face. He handed her his hand cleaner. He remembered a time he wished Sandra would enjoy moments like this with him, but she always thought his work was too messy. After they cleaned up, Amelia cooked dinner, and they enjoyed a peaceful evening watching TV. John felt more at ease than he had in a long time, and managed to get through the night without thinking about his soon-to-be ex-wife. The following days were a whirlwind. John picked up his dress blues from the cleaners and spent hours removing any loose threads, polishing his brass, shoes, and hat. Amelia gave her 2-week notice at the diner where she worked. She was informed that her employment ended immediately, and she was told to return in a few days to collect her final paycheck. During those days, John and Amelia grew closer and decided to hold off on taking their relationship further until after John's divorce was finalized. John found it challenging because it had been a long time since he'd been with a woman, but he was genuinely falling for Amelia, and it seemed she felt the same way about him. The day of the court hearing finally arrived. John showered, shaved, and dressed in his uniform after breakfast, then went into the living room where Amelia was waiting in a lovely printed dress. "Wow," she said, admiring him in his dress uniform adorned with medals. "You look fantastic," John smiled. "Thanks, but I feel like a Christmas tree," he replied. "You look amazing, too." At the courthouse, they were greeted by 14 Marines from John's unit, including Lat Col Johnson and Sergeant Major Roberts. After introductions, they entered the courtroom. The Marines filled 2 rows as John approached the table where Mike was waiting. John's parents also joined the Marines. John glanced over at Sandra and Eric at the opposite table. Sandra's eyes widened when she saw the man she had cheated on. Although he looked impressive in his uniform, she was taken aback by his missing ear and the scars on his face. Eric smirked while rubbing Sandra's pregnant belly. Sandra had yet to notice Amelia. The judge entered the room and the bailiff instructed everyone to stand. Once everyone was seated, the judge addressed the Marines. "What brings you here today, gentlemen?" he asked. Lat Col Johnson stood up. "Your Honor, my Marines and I are here to show support for Sergeant Harkness and, if needed, to speak on his character," he said. The judge acknowledged this with a nod. "Thank you, Colonel," the judge said. "I don't think we'll need that, but I appreciate the support." The Marines remained silent but cast stern looks at Sandra and Swagman throughout the hearing, which proceeded as Mike had described. The judge asked both parties a series of questions covering their marriage history and the reasons behind John's divorce request. Sandra admitted to abandoning the house, neglecting utility payments, and getting pregnant by Swagman, who then tried to convince the judge to order support for the child. The judge asked, "You really expect me to make Mr. Harkness pay child support for a child you fathered? Are you serious or just not thinking clearly?" Denied. Throughout the hearing, the judge rejected every motion and request from Swagman. At the end, the judge ruled in John's favor, granting him everything he had asked for: the house, a permanent restraining order, and no support payments. Sandra was also ordered to return half of the money she had taken from their joint account and revert to her maiden name. She didn't need to return her rings as she had already thrown them away. Swagman protested, but the judge silenced him with his gavel. "Mr. Swagman," the judge said, using his gavel to point at him, "I am ordering an investigation into your involvement in this case. At the very least, there's a significant conflict of interest. And I know the district attorney is looking into other potential illegal activities, including conspiracy. I also understand there's a lawsuit against you for alienation of affection. Your actions and responses today will be considered in that matter." He hit the gavel on the desk. "Mr. Harkness's divorce petition is granted," the judge announced. Swagman jumped up angrily and charged at John, but was stopped by the bailiff. "You bastard!" Swagman yelled. "I'm gonna kick your ass! I'll keep messing with your ex and anyone else you get involved with. I'll ruin you." "I don't think so," John said calmly. Swagman looked at John, then at the Marines in the courtroom, who were glaring at him and Sandra with hostility. Sandra looked down, embarrassed. Lee Marcus, who had been watching from the back of the courtroom, approached Swagman after his outburst. "You're fired," Lee said. "I'm also filing a complaint with the state bar. Pack up and leave my office by the end of the day." He glanced at Sandra as Swagman stormed out, cursing. "You still have a job, Sandra, at least until after the baby is born and you've had some time to recover. We'll reassess your performance then," he said. He turned back to John and shook his hand. "Thank you for your service, Sergeant," he said. "On behalf of the partnership and the board of directors, I apologize for what you've been through." He then turned to Mike. "Given the situation and considering Mr. Harkness's service, the board accepts your initial offer. We don't see the need for more hearings. Please make an appointment with me next week to finalize everything." Mike nodded as he and Lee shook hands. "Thanks, Lee. I'll call on Monday," Mike said. Lee smiled. "Great. Maybe now I can win back some of my money on the golf course," Lee said as he left. Amelia came over to John and hugged him. John hugged her back and noticed Sandra watching him through her tears as he ended the hug. "John, I'm so sorry," Sandra said. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "Well, you did," he replied. "I just want to know one thing. Why?" Sandra shrugged. "I don't know," she said. "You were gone. Eric was around. Maybe I started thinking about money and was tired of being broke. One thing led to another. And, well, you know the rest." "What were you two talking about?" he asked. "Eric thought you'd be okay with raising my child while letting me be with him," she said. "I didn't like it at first, but the idea started to grow on me. Again, I'm sorry." John shook his head. "I see you didn't waste any time replacing me," Sandra said, glancing at Amelia. Amelia stepped in front of John, looking ready to confront Sandra. "I'm not here just to replace you," she said. "I'm here to heal a good man's heart, the heart you broke, and I plan to spend the rest of my life doing that." Sandra looked down before responding. "I guess I deserve that," she said. "John, do you think we could ever be friends again?" she asked. "I'm not sure, Sandra," he replied. "You hurt me deeply. If it weren't for Amelia and my family, I might not even be here now." "I didn't know, John. I'm really sorry," Sandra said, crying. She turned and left the courtroom. John shook Mike's hand as he got ready to leave. By now, the other Marines and John's parents had gathered around them. "Thanks for everything, Mike. I really owe you," John said. Mike waved him off. "Hey, that's what friends and family are for, right?" Mike said. "Plus, I've always wanted to see that jerk get put in his place. I'll catch up with you next week after I talk to Lee. You got a big payday coming. Now go out and celebrate. You've earned it." After shaking hands with the Marines and gathering his things, Mike left. "Good job, Sergeant," Colonel Johnson said, shaking his hand. The other Marines also shook his hand and wished him well. After they left, John's parents hugged him. "We're so proud of you, son," his mother said. "And who is this lovely lady?" she asked. John introduced Amelia proudly, and his parents hugged her warmly as if she were family. "You need to bring her over for dinner sometime, John," his mother said. John smiled. "I hope to do that a lot from now on," he said. Sandra's pregnancy ended in a miscarriage, and she was told she couldn't have more children. The firm kept her on under a contract prohibiting intimate relationships with staff. She worked there for 20 years and stayed single, occasionally watching John and Amelia's children. Tragically, she was passed in a car accident. John, Amelia, and his parents attended her funeral. Eric Swagman lost most of his money fighting legal battles. He lost to John in court and all appeals to the state bar. The district attorney didn't press charges due to insufficient evidence. One night, after leaving a bar, he was beaten by masked men, with severe injuries to his Johnson and a Semper Fi sign around his neck. Weeks later, he was found hanged. John proposed to Amelia the day his divorce was finalized. They married with a traditional Marine sword ceremony. They continued working for Old Man Wilkins until he passed away in 1980, leaving the shop to John. John remained in the reserves, retiring as a master gunnery sergeant in 1992, a year after Desert Storm. He occasionally dreamed about Vietnam, but managed it well. John and Amelia ran the shop until retiring in 2008, passing it to their two sons. 10 years later, while window shopping, John saw a drawing of the rose tattoo he had almost gotten in Vietnam. He decided to get Amelia's name tattooed over his heart. "What are you doing?" Amelia asked. John explained, "I want your name right here, over my heart, where it belongs. You promised to heal my heart all those years ago, and you did. Now I want everyone to know how much I love you." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "You don't need to do that," she said. "Oh, yes, I do," John said. "I owe you everything." She sat down, knowing that once John made up his mind, nothing could change it. "Are you sure you want to do this, Grandpa?" the artist asked. John took off his shirt. "Absolutely," he said. "Okay," the artist replied. "Will it hurt?" Amelia asked. "Yeah, it's going to hurt a lot," John said. "But it's worth it to me." Amelia smiled and wiped away her tears as she watched the artist tattoo her name on his skin.